Janet Kuester. Janet is the owner, founder, and director of the Music Connection. Each week, over 20 teachers at the 2 locations in Orland and Frankfurt teach private lessons in violin, viola, cello, bass guitar, piano, and voice. Students range in age from 0 to 91. The purpose of the Music Connection is to give students the skills they need to enjoy music for a lifetime. The core belief: all people have music ability that can be nurtured and developed. Janet is giving her second speech on evaluation after the icebreaker. The title of her speech is Connection, Connect the Dots, and Connecting.
Madam President, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, I would like to give a talk tonight about connecting. And one of my last evaluators on my last speech actually gave me the idea for this speech tonight. They said, why don't you tell us about your students or the lives that you have impacted through your business? And I was just floored because I thought, oh my gosh, what a job that would be. First of all, I cannot believe that starting a business would have such an impact on so many people, and there would be so many stories to tell, just very, very moving. And I wanted to start by telling you that in 2007, my business had been in existence for about 3 years. And I went on a retreat with my best friends. And I kept being bothered by the fact that my business was called Kaleidoscope Strings and Piano. And I felt that my vision was much more than just teaching strings and piano. So I was searching for a new name for the business, and I kept going over and over it again. And as most great ideas I have, it just popped into my head, and I thought, this is really about connecting. It's about connecting, and it's about music, and it's not just about strings and piano, it's about all music. So I said, I'm going to call it the Music Connection. And my friend said, hey, it sounds good to me. So I went ahead and went through the process of changing the name of the business, and I did that in 2007. So along with that time, I was doing things like revamping the mission and purpose and thinking about my core values, as Tony Robbins would tell us to do, and many other people I've also read about. So I started going through those things, and I knew my mission right away. It was to give the students the skills that they would need to enjoy music for a lifetime. And whatever those skills would be, I knew that we had teachers that would be able to help them. Then my second thing was, what is my core belief? And I went back to the teachings of Dr. Suzuki, who developed the philosophy of the method I tend to use personally as a teacher. And Dr. Suzuki was an educator who lived from 1899 to 1999, and his core statement was, all people have musical ability that can be nurtured and developed. And that's oftentimes hard for people. I meet countless people who tell me, I have no talent, I'm deaf, all these things. Well, I actually have taught deaf people to play, so I know that even that person had some ability that could be nurtured and developed. So as soon as I adopted this philosophy, as luck would have it again, I was called to the test because right away I started to be getting what people call special needs students. And one of the first ones, or one of my most memorable ones, was a student named Logan. And Logan was about 4 or 5 years old when he started taking piano lessons, and he was in a group class that I was teaching. He came with his mother, and even his teacher came with him to his lesson, his teacher from his special school, because she had taught piano herself, and she noticed that Logan was particularly interested in musical instruments. So Logan was part of a class, and we made it work, even though he had some behavior and social issues. And then his mom approached me and said, would you teach him privately? And I did say I would. So I started teaching Logan, and we certainly had our days from him laying on the floor of the studio screaming and crying to accepting music education. We found out very early he had perfect pitch. He became just a phenomenal pianist. When he was about 5 or 6, he wanted to add violin to his studies. And his mom said, oh, let's do it. Even though violin was a little hard for him physically. And violin turned out to be a pivotal instrument for Logan, because what happened was that he got some of the socialization that he so desperately needed to get. He began in our violin group classes, and a lot of the kids were sort of shunning him at first, but Logan never missed a note. He was so good at everything he did. He never missed a note. So pretty soon kids started getting really close to him so that they could see what he was doing and try to imitate him. And eventually, because all the children, through playing the music, I do think that it does do something with building a kind heart. The children were exceptionally kind to Logan. He became part of our group. Ironically, Logan also joined his band, so by high school he was playing the saxophone and doing quite well. So he came to us about his sophomore year and he said, I think, Miss Janet, I'm going to have to give up the piano because I'm just too busy with school. Such a normal thing for a high school student. He had to make those hard choices, so he gave up the piano and, gave up those studies for a little while. And he got very social with his band. Currently, he's attending Olivet Nazarene University. He just played a performance of The Messiah, and he did take out his violin for that. And then there were a couple more students I wanted to share some stories about. My next student was Chloe. She was a 13-year-old. She still is 13 years old. She has severe cerebral palsy. Her mother could no longer interest her in going to speech therapy anymore, and she said, I want to sing. So Chloe has come to us each week for voice lessons. It is so moving, I can't even tell you, to see her in her wheelchair gasping for air sometimes, forcing out the words to these songs. And one of the performances that brought me to tears was when she sang Jesu Bambino this Christmas with her teacher, who has a beautiful, beautiful soprano voice. And Chloe can barely eke out the words, but she did, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house at all. And the last student I want to talk about was Josh, and he was only 3 years old when he came to us with autism, and he actually met Logan. Josh could not speak when he came to us. He ended up at 5 starting the violin, and he's a tremendous violinist now. He plays amazingly well. One of his most moving performances was when we first found out Josh could talk, and he started to sing My Heart Will Go On at a little performance at the bookstore in addition to playing his violin. So those are just a few of the stories, and my very latest student right now is a student named Julia, who came in with autism, screaming, my bunny, my bunny, my bunny. And her mother said, what does this mean? And I looked at her and said, well, Julia wants to play My Bunny Lies Over the Ocean. So how about if we learn that right now? And that was exactly what she wanted. Thank you so much for listening.